Let's talk about changing the needles on the Bernina L450 serger. Now, one thing nice is that you do have a small pack of needles that came with the serger, and I love the fact that these are the same needles that go into my sewing machine. Now, you do want to stay within a range of 70s to 90s or 10s to 14s when you're using them, but you can go in and put like denim needles in, you could put stretch needles, you can specialize those needles for the tip or point that you're looking for. So that is nice. Just head over to your sewing machine, needle supply, and they'll fit this serger. So a couple things that you can use to make life easy about changing needles is you have on the opposite end of the needle threader is a needle catcher. You also need to pull out the little Torx screwdriver, and we'll be using it at the top of the needles where it says L and R, left and right. Okay, but before we do anything, notice the needles are down just in their sequence. Look in this window here. As you turn it, you will notice that there is a red mark in the middle. And when that line is matched up to the red mark, then the needles are at their highest position. And sometimes what I'll do is actually just lower the presser foot like it is now. So that gives me a little bit more room. So for example, oftentimes we will remove the left needle from the machine and switch it over to a rolled hem. So you can clip the thread and pull it right on through. And I always recommend that you actually remove the spool of thread that you're now no longer using. Believe me, you don't want to leave that hanging up there. It will come visit you a little bit later. So now what I can do is, but first I want you to notice that the needles are at two different heights. So if you are taking a needle out or putting one in, or when you go to put it back, is that you make sure that the left one always gets back higher than the right one. So always do that little check. Now, one thing nice about this little holder, see how there's kind of a flat side on the back here? That's going to help hold that and not let the needle twist when we actually go back and reinsert it. So we'll take our screwdriver, go over to the top one, that's the one closest to the L, and as we loosen that, just give it a little loosen, maybe a little wiggle, because eventually it will just drop out. If you are loosening that needle screw at the top quite a bit, do keep in mind that these are fairly short screws, and they're going to fall out, maybe even fall on your carpet and get lost. That's where a magnetic pincushion can help find it for you, hopefully. The other thing is once you take a needle out, you can place it in the little needle holder right down here. See how that has a little kind of cushion, and then that way you don't lose it. Really nice. And then the last thing you want to do is go ahead and tighten that screw. Now, just because you took it out, remember as you took the needle out, now that screw is going to go in even further. So when you go to put it back in and you're taking that screw out, you're going to have to take it all the way out so the needle can come up, and then we'll tighten it back into position. So here's how that is going to look. So I'm going to take my needle holder, drop it in, flat side to the back. Now, I can't do this from this side. You definitely want to hold it in front of you. Drop the tip down next to the other needle first, and then come straight up. It's like right beside it. Now, I can slide it up a little bit, but eventually it's going to stop. So I need to, remember, loosen that screw, and I can almost feel it. It'll pop all the way to the highest position. I can look at the bottom and then make sure that that needle is higher than the right one. And now we're back threaded. So then you can just go ahead and thread it. If you are taking a needle in and out and then threading it, remember those are the last two threads that we thread in sequence. So it doesn't matter if you're adding a thread in here. You don't have to do anything special. Just start serging, and that new thread will get caught into that little chain that you're used to seeing without any extra help as you go. Now, needles. When do you change those needles? You know, honestly, as soon as you start to have any skip stitches or the stitches aren't looking right, go ahead and get some new needles in there from time to time. That's probably the one thing I don't do enough of is change needles on a serger. So if you start to hear any extra clicks or clacks or skip stitches, needle time, it's time to change them. I bet they probably usually break first before we actually start to see any issues at a later time. So as soon as they break, well, guess what? New needle time. So take a little time, get used to putting your needles in and out, and believe me, the more you do it, the easier it gets.